We began with the most famous monster there has ever been. The hairy giant at the edge of the North American woods. Bigfoot. But every forest on Earth has its shape in the dark. And the deepest, oldest, least mapped forest of them all is not in America at all. Tonight we leave the pine trees behind, and we go to the green heart of Africa, to a swamp the size of a country, where the people who live there will tell you, with no drama at all, that something very large is still living in the water. They call it Mokele-mbembe, and some believe it is a dinosaur that never died. Come and sit down. Let us walk this one too. Mokele-mbembe. In Lingala, the name means, roughly, the one who stops the flow of rivers. It is said to live in the Congo River Basin, in the rivers and swamps of the Republic of the Congo, of Cameroon, of Gabon, and above all in one place. Lake Télé, a near-perfect circle of black water, ringed by 100 miles of swamp forest so thick that even now, few outsiders have ever stood on its shore. And the people who describe the creature describe the same animal, again and again. A body like an elephant, or a hippo, a long, snaking neck, a small head, a long tail. Something, they say, that should not still be here. To the Baka and the other peoples of the swamp, this is not a monster and not a mystery. It is simply an animal, like the elephant or the crocodile, that happens to be rare and dangerous. They say it keeps to the deep water, that it eats a particular riverside plant they call malombo, and that it will rise up under a canoe and overturn it, and kill the people in the water, not to eat them, but because it will not suffer them on its river. For generations this was local knowledge, told quietly at the water's edge, and no one from the outside was listening. The first outsider to write it down did so nearly 2.5 centuries ago. In 1776, a French missionary, the Abbé Proyart, published an account from the Congo of an enormous animal and of the tracks it had left behind. Claude prints, he said, about 3 feet around. He never saw the creature himself. He simply recorded what the people and the mud had shown him. And then, for over 100 years, that report sat inside an old book, and it waited. It came back in 1909. Carl Hagenbeck, the German who built the modern zoo, wrote in his memoirs that 2 separate men had told him, independently, of a monster in the swamps of the Congo. Something, they both said, half elephant and half dragon. Hagenbeck came to believe it might be a surviving dinosaur, and he actually sent men to find it. They came back with fever and nothing else. But the idea was loose in the world now, that the inner swamp of Africa might be hiding a living, prehistoric animal. Then, in 1913, it was written down properly. By an official, the German government sent an expedition into what was then their colony of Cameroon, led by a Captain von Stein. And in his report, von Stein set down the native accounts of the creature they called Mokele-mbembe with real care. Brownish-gray, the size of an elephant, or at the least a hippopotamus, a long and very flexible neck, a single tooth, or perhaps a horn, and a long, muscular tail. It was the first time the animal had a name, a description, and a straight-faced witness, all on paper. And to a certain kind of reader, that description sounded like exactly one thing. A sauropod, one of the long-necked, small-headed, elephant-bodied dinosaurs. The brachiosaurs, and their kin, that every one of us learned as children had been gone for 66 million years. The idea took hold, and it would not let go. The Congo Basin, people said, has barely changed in all that time. It is warm. It is wet. It is enormous. And much of it has never been surveyed on foot. If anywhere on Earth could hide a relic from the age of the dinosaurs, surely it was here, in the one green place that time forgot. It is a beautiful idea. Hold on to how beautiful it is. We are going to need it later. For most of the 20th century, it stayed a story. Then, in 1980, and again in 1981, it became a scientific expedition. Roy Mackal, a biologist from the University of Chicago, led 2 journeys deep into the Lake Télé swamps, together with the herpetologist James Powell. They never saw the animal, but they came back convinced. They had gathered account after account, From people who had no reason to lie and no knowledge of dinosaurs at all, every one of them describing the same long-necked beast. Mackal became certain that something real and large and unknown was out there in that water. The closest anyone ever came was in 1983. A Congolese biologist, Marcelin Agnagna, was at Lake Télé with a local expedition when, he said, he saw it. A wide back, a long neck, a small head, moving slowly across the surface of the lake. And he had a camera. In the shock of the moment, by his own account, he filmed with the lens cap on, or the wrong setting, and captured nothing anyone could use. It is the oldest and the cruelest pattern in this whole subject. The witness, the certainty, and the camera that fails at the one moment that would have mattered. So what is there to actually hold? Footprints, described, and now and then cast. Three-toed, and wide as a doorway. Trails of flattened vegetation, crushed through the swamp. The malombo plant, the creature's supposed food, which really does grow along those rivers. Strange sounds in the night. And an unbroken wall of eyewitness testimony, stretching back centuries, from people across a huge and roadless region, all describing the same animal. It is, genuinely, a lot. And it is, still, the very same problem that Bigfoot has. Not one bone. Not one clear photograph. Not one body. A mountain of testimony. And nothing you can lay on a table. And the skeptics have hard questions. A sauropod was not a crocodile. It was a colossal, warm-blooded, plant-eating animal that had to eat almost constantly. And a breeding population of them could not hide in a swamp, however large it is. There is no fossil of a sauropod anywhere near this recent. Not by tens of millions of years. And there is a simpler answer waiting. Much of what is described, the size, the gray hide, the crashing through the water, the fury at a passing canoe, fits an animal we already know. A rhinoceros, a forest elephant, swimming with its trunk raised like a neck. Even a very large crocodile, half seen. The mind, shown a long shape in black water, reaches for the biggest neck it knows. That has not stopped the search. And it is worth knowing who keeps searching and why. Alongside the honest cryptozoologists, Lake Télé has drawn expedition after expedition, funded by people who hope the creature is real for a particular reason, who believe that a living dinosaur would somehow overturn the theory of evolution itself. Trip after trip has gone into that swamp. Well-funded, well-equipped, certain they would be the ones. And every single one has come back the same way, with more stories, more footprints, more certainty from the local people, and not one piece of proof that the rest of the world could weigh. So where does it leave us? Here, by the fire. The same place, almost exactly, as the giant in the pines. The evidence points one way. No body, no bones, no photograph, and good, ordinary animals that fit most of what is seen. And yet, the swamp really is that big. Lake Télé really is that far from everything. And the people who live there really do speak of the one who stops the rivers, not as a legend, but as something their grandparents warned them about. Still out there, in the black water, tonight. We began with the most famous monster in the world, and we have found that the second one, half a planet away, ends on the very same note. A vast wild place, a patient old story, and our deep, human need for there to be something still out there that we have not yet caught. Sleep well, and stay out of the deep water. This has been the Dark Hearth.